Right.
Yeah, it's good now. Good day, my esteemed viewers. You are warmly welcome to another live show of Health Media Chats. Today is Sunday, 28th February 2021. This live show is brought to you by Adams Head Blog, and I am your regular host, OMOLOLA Adams or Latayo. Yeah, on the show today, my guest will be sharing, from a wealth of experience, on the topic that she will be discussing with us, and the topic is the virtual method of learning in nursing education, a new way. So my guest is a seasoned professional nurse, a public health nurse. I don't want to go into details. She's also a scholar and she's an educator at a prestigious university in United Kingdom. Dr. Odewusi Temitayo. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, without wasting much of our time, there has been I saw some research work that were done on e-learning, and there were a lot of debates on this particular new method that is being adopted virtually around the world. And then this particular study, highlighted advantages of how and the reasons why we should go into this, and that is why we are bringing up this particular, topic. Let me start with this question first. Just briefly tell us what exactly is this virtual learning or e-learning?
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. I'll say that virtual learning, just like you have said, it's the way the world is going now. Of course, nursing profession as well. It's a learning experience that is enhanced through utilization of computers and or the internet, both outside and inside the facilities of the educational organization. So the instruction commonly takes place in an online environment, and the teaching activities are carried out online where the teachers and the learners are physically separated in terms of place, time, or both.
Okay, thank you for that brief definition. It is very straight and it has a lot of information inside. Now, this this virtual learning, we are not used to this system before, and then to some, I don't want to use my generation now because I think my generation is technology generation. But I want to talk for my old people that for them they see like, no, we are not used to this. This is not something that we know we do. And so does it mean that this e-learning or virtual learning is taking over the normal forms of conventional method of learning, of teaching?
That question, I can't say no. Well, let me answer by saying from my own perspective, it's not really taking it over. It's not really, but especially in nursing profession. But if we look at other fields, yes, it's taking over completely. But for us in nursing, there are different schools of thought about it. You know, some people believe that in nursing, no matter how much of technology you bring in, you cannot take over the patient-nurse relationship. That the caring aspect, the touch and all those things, there is no machine, there is no technology that can still do that. So I would say, yes, it is taking over, but no, it is not taking over completely, and it can't take it over completely.
Okay, can you just tell us why it cannot take it over completely?
Yeah, I think here I would have to look at the fact that virtual or e-learning, it's a virtual reality. It is not a complete reality. You have the complete reality when you are with the students, when you are in the class. But virtually, everything is a kind of made up reality there. And when you are talking about patient care, there is nothing like virtual. It has to be real when you are talking about patient care. Let me quickly let's look at the differences between virtual and conventional learning. In virtual learning, like I said, it happens online. And in conventional, it happens offline. Because then virtual learning can take place anytime and any place. Whereas the conventional one has to be, it is forced in a scheduled place. There must be a schedule, and it must happen in a place like the classroom, like the hospital ward, you know. Then in virtual learning, the pace is flexible. While like you can actually plan when you are going to meet with your students, and you know, you can be flexible about it depending on the time and all those things. But with conventional learning, if it's on the timetable that you must have a lecture at so time, you have to be there at so time. The virtual learning, you can actually, your learning can take place alone. That is, each learner is in different places. You know, each learner is in a different place and is still connected to others. Whereas conventional learning takes place together with your colleagues. Also, virtual learning supports independent learning style, while conventional learning is learning from and with each other. And then in virtual learning, the primary source of information is online content. While in conventional learning, the primary source of information is the teacher, the educator, the lecturer. Then in virtual learning, there is limited interaction. While in conventional learning, there is extensive interaction between the trainers and their colleagues as well. And then in virtual learning, the setting up of virtual learning is more affordable, while setting up of conventional learning is actually expensive.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I want to agree with you about that, based on the last factor, and I think virtual learning is a risk because there are a lot of things that are involved in using, I mean, to have a virtual learning. Now, that will now take me to the next question, which is, what are the advantages now? Because we believe that the world is now technological. Everything now is all this, I mean, technology science, and then these innovations. We see the phones, we see the laptops, we see all these gadgets. There are new, I mean, new things are coming up almost day in, day out. And I mean, even we learned that some people are also working from remote areas that are in their house, and I mean, they are working. For instance, I think at a point in time, I tried to call one of, I mean, the customer care that supply my internet in my house. And when I tried to call the person was telling me, I'm sorry, we cannot do video because I'm in my house. I was now like, come on, I'm calling an office. So it means that an office is now moved to the home where people are now working from their home. So are we having similar thing now in education? And we want to be specific in nursing education. So what are these advantages of this particular virtual learning?
Okay, well, though the question is the advantages, but I don't want to be one-sided, because virtual learning has its pros and cons.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the advantages of virtual learning, the first thing is accessibility. That is, there is freedom for the learner to study and complete their work 24/7 from anywhere in the world at any time. That is, the learner can always fit in their study into their life schedule. The course materials are accessible online. The student can go back and play the video of the lecture over and over again at their own pace, and learning is at the comfort of their homes. So that's the first one. The second one is there is combined structure and freedom with virtual learning. That is, the students can use the program structures to create their own schedule for completing their task, like project that is due. You know, for example, they can easily look at their due date online. They can look at any online test that they have. They can know when the submission of some work or paper is due. They can easily, the structure is there, and then they have the freedom to fit it into their lives as they want. Then another thing in relation to that is that it helps the learners to improve their time management skills while they are juggling other things like work, like family, and other things. Then the third thing is that there is an inclusive environment with virtual learning. even though, when I say virtual learning, I mean e-learning. Even though the learners are scattered everywhere, but the students, they are still included. For example, students, when in the conventional learning experience, when you ask students questions, some students, they are always anxious about raising their hand to respond. Some know it, they are not sure of themselves. And some, it's like every question they have an answer. They want to respond to it. And with that, there is that tendency on the part of the educator or the lecturer to always ask from those who are very quick to raise up their hands. Why those who don't raise up their hands, they don't, lecturers don't really bother so much because the lecturer is also constrained by time. But in the online environment, even students who have difficulty in expressing themselves or coming out to answer questions, they can always answer because there are different how will I put them now? There are different things that can be used online for students to respond. For example, there are polls. There are they have chats. They can answer yes or no. They can express themselves. They can ask questions without necessarily talking to everyone if they don't want to. So in virtual classroom, the teacher has access to variety of tools to help students participate, like I said, like polls, like there is whiteboard, even online, your charts and all the stuff like that. Then another advantage or pros of virtual learning is that learners are more responsible for their learning. In conventional, the learning is more dependent on the lecturer, on the educator. But for virtual learning, it's the learners are more responsible because from the beginning, they would have seen the course outline, they would have seen the curriculum, they would have seen what they're expected to do. It's just left for them to know how they are going to plan their time in such a way that they are able to meet up with the expectation within the specified time. Virtual learning saves money. That is, learner can stay at home. You don't have to travel from your home to the university. You don't have to travel from your home to when you can stay at home and use your own device and still access the same information. It improves the technology skills of learners. At the end of the day, when learners are exposed to virtual learning, by the time they are graduating, they are graduating with proficiency in whatever they have gone to study. For example, nursing. At the same time, they have gained technological skills in the process. So when they're employed after, they can easily perform when it comes to some basic, software and things like that that are related to e-learning at work. Then in virtual learning, students receive quick feedback. Unlike conventional, where the teacher will have to wait until all the scripts are collected together, then the teacher will start to mark one by one. But for virtual learning, as if this is the submission time, maybe 4 p.m. on the 1st of March. A student can submit on the 28th of February. Another one might submit on the 27th. And as soon as the teacher starts to see each of these, the teacher will start to mark and give feedback without waiting till the last student submits. So that is also an advantage. Then it also helps to gain various perspectives. For example, virtual learning has made it possible for educational institutions to offer admission to students locally and internationally. And because of this, you have a mix of students with diverse perspectives from variety of cultures. And that really would enrich whichever program the students are there to do. And they're able to do this in a conducive environment. There are a lot of advantages. It provides the ability to deliver both learning and information at will, dynamically and immediately. It allows participants to tap into the knowledge of experts and non-experts and also apply their own learning beyond classroom walls, even into their workplaces. For nurses, it engages nurses by building interest and motivation while providing opportunities for active participation and protecting their organizational interest with documented training. Then e-learning also helps, one of the things, especially about nursing, as nurses, I remember they always tell us, and I remember that I always tell my students that nursing is a lifelong learning profession. I mean, you can say that after you have received whatever education in the university or school of nursing or whatever, that is the end. You have to keep learning. And that is why anywhere you're working, you have the continuing education unit just to update your knowledge, because you are dealing with human beings. You cannot predict, things are changing. There are research going on. There are new methods, new innovations. So you have to keep yourself up to date and abreast of the development. So e-learning is a very good way for nurses to actually be able to fulfill their dream of lifelong learning. That is, you can learn, you can continue to learn and teach if that is your interest for as long as you want it, without necessarily leaving your source of income. That is, you can work, you can manage and juggle other things as well as learn. Then it also provides a foundation for performance and monitoring that makes the correlation between nurses and learning technologies possible. So if there is virtual learning, you can easily monitor and assess performance of nurses without necessarily going through the conventional ways of doing things. It offers many possibilities and advantages that can provide flexibility, even in our workplaces. It doesn't have to be, this is how we have been doing it, and so this is how it must be. And that is the good thing, the unique thing about virtual learning. It brings in creativity into learning, and at the same time, even into practice as well. And so those are the brief advantages. Now, I want us to look at the cons, the disadvantages.
Okay.
In terms of there are very few anyway, from my research and my experience too, because I'm also using it. The first thing is infrastructural challenge. For us to actually have an effective virtual learning system, there must be the device, either your phone or your tablet or your iPad or your Apple device or your laptop or desktop, that must be there. And then you must have constant electricity. Then you must have internet. So if all these things are not in place, it might be difficult. Then in terms of for nursing education, there are specifics now. Then we can start to talk about the simulation labs, which are quite different, a bit different from our usual nursing lab or demonstration lab. Because when you're talking about simulation, we are talking about virtual learning in nursing education. And to set this up, you have to look at the functionality of, all those logistics like lights, like internet, all those things must really be in place. Then it's another disadvantage, kind of, depending on how we are looking at it, is it involves extra training, especially if you are not familiar with it, if you are not used to it, you need to be trained. And that might be a challenge, especially to some of our older nurses, especially in practice, who are not familiar with internet or anything computer at all. For us to keep up and be abreast with, the current trend, you need to really make it part of yourself to go for a training, especially in virtual learning and teaching. Another thing is lack of social and emotional skills. The more you are used to virtual learning, that is, you are glued to your computer, so to speak, or your device, the more or the less you interact with people physically. That's why you see the generation of nurses we have nowadays. What you see them do is their phone. They're always eating, they're always typing, because that is the generation that they have. And we can't really blame them for that. And because of that, they lack social skills, they lack emotional skills. And then physical activity is compromised. If you see someone that is always on the computer or using the phone, they always, especially when they're engrossed with whatever they are doing, they often find it difficult to even get up and take a walk or go for exercise. And then they tend to kind of engage in sedentary activity. Then effect of excess screen time on students. I remember after taking, after work, after starting to lecture, virtually, I've changed my glasses because now I spend more time, giving lectures online, meeting with students online, marking assessments and dissertations and projects and all the stuff. So that is also a disadvantage of virtual learning. And the last one I have is reduced personal interaction between teacher and students. Of course, which there are ways of also solving that too, because virtually you can also meet with your students. You can set up a Skype meeting with your students if you want to do one-to-one. You can set up duo. You can set up teams, one-on-one if you just want it between you and that particular student. But we shouldn't forget that nothing can take the place of physical one-to-one interaction.
Thank you very much. I think that was quite justified, and thank you very much for those essential points that you've raised. I think my viewers, we believe that we have nowhere to run to, and we have to accept the reality that is, I mean, the era now is technology, and then we have to accept it, and then our older people should please kindly bear with us. Things have changed; they have to change with time as well. So,
Yeah.
um, that will now take me to this particular question now, which is more about, I mean, the nursing